Okay, I admit it. I was wrong about Ghost Recon Wildlands. For years, I wrote it off in favour of Breakpoint. Shinier, newer, more tactical experience, or so I thought. But after diving back into both games, one thing then became crystal clear to me. Wildlands did what Breakpoint couldn't. It captured something special, a different vibe, different freedom, more of a soul. And I wasn't really alone. The community's been saying it for years. All in my YouTube comments, all in my Discord, I was being told how wrong I was. So today, I'm revisiting Wildlands with open eyes and a fresh perspective. And I'll show you now why Ghost Recon Wildlands might actually just be the best Ghost Recon we've had in over a decade. Let me know in the comments below, do you agree? Do you think Wildlands was better than Breakpoint? Or was Breakpoint a better installment in the Ghost Recon series? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. A couple of months ago, I posted a video about Ghost Recon Wildlands where I didn't really hold back on the criticism. I dissected the repetitive missions, the AI, and the loot economy, and I thought it was falling short of the Tom Clancy legacy. In all honesty, I thought I had everything figured out.
I'm going to go with Breakpoint on this one, especially in 2025. It gives you a lot more replayability and it's a lot more fun to play.
The clip you've just seen absolutely came out of my experience, and at the time I was frustrated. And in my eyes it's for good reason. Some of those elements genuinely do interrupt that immersion I harped on about so much in the original video. But fast forward to now. After reading the comments, I decided to jump right back into Wildlands with a fresh set of eyes, completely resetting my expectations and giving the story and world another chance. And to my surprise, I was completely wrong. It's not the game that I initially dismissed. In fact, it has layers, and dare I say it, a real deep soul. This video is about my journey, where my first take completely missed the larger picture, and what changed when I kept playing, and why Wildlands deserves more respect than I gave it credit for. In the coming sections, I'm going to revisit and break down what I got wrong, what I discovered that shifted my opinion, and why it matters, not just for me, but for anyone else who wrote the game off too soon. So stick around for me. By the end, I hope you can see Ghost Recon Wildlands the way I do now, not through frustration, but instead through appreciation and possibilities. First off, let me start by owning it completely. I was flat out wrong about Wildlands in a few very significant ways. My earlier critique wasn't just overly harsh, it was narrow-minded, it was easy, and it was lazy. It didn't account for what the game is actually trying to be. And in hindsight, I wasn't reviewing Wildlands, I was projecting disappointment onto it for not being something else. Really not appreciating the game for actually what it was. Let me unpack where I went wrong, one point at a time. First up, I was mistaking freedom for emptiness. In my original video, one of my main complaints was that the game felt repetitive. I painted Wildlands as a shallow open world experience. Go here, do this, interrogate that guy, rinse and repeat. It felt to me like a game designed by an algorithm, for example. Auto-generated scenarios relating to a story. But that criticism came from the way I chose to play the game, not from what the game actually offers. I completely rushed it, mission to mission, determined to find the early located meta sniper rifles and wrap this game up so I can get a review done. Truth is, Wildlands actually gives you space. Too much space though if you're not ready for it. It didn't tell me how to approach a mission. It didn't shove scripted set pieces down my throat. It dared me to create my own moments and my own strategies. And back then, I saw that open-endedness as a flaw. Where's the cinematic structure? Where's the emotional pacing that I enjoy so much in games when they really grip me? But now, I see it differently. Structure is there, it's just spread out. I needed to look at each province as almost its own mini campaign. And when you start to knit these campaigns together, you start to see the larger story forming. What I once labelled as repetitive now feels like consistency of a tone and underrated realism. The lore of the game now felt engaging. You're fighting a war, you're not writing a movie, and war is dirty, slow, and often boring, until it gets chaotic. And if you take this view, try to roleplay your actual role in the world as if reality, and you will get invested, and you will get immersed. I also undervalued the AI and the systems. One thing that I really slated was the usage of the AI and its functionality. I talked about the dumb enemies, the clunky comparison behaviour, and the illusion of tactical control. I did find a few funny moments throughout the playthrough, teammates refusing to get in a car, enemies taking cover behind explosive barrels like absolute idiots. It was actually entertaining content, but it wasn't a real reflection or evaluation of what Wildlands was doing under the hood. Yeah, the AI does have quirky moments. Sometimes it makes you just laugh out loud. But when I actually digged into the systems a bit, I started to see some complexity. Enemy patrols respond to different sounds and different lights. They actually change formation if I go in too quickly or take a few out initially. They call the reinforcements, they retreat, or sometimes even attempt to flank. There's so many layers that I actually miss when rushing through the missions. And the AI squad mates, they're not really designed to be super soldiers. I almost consider them tools now, extensions of your tactical choices, and almost like attachments to your weapon. If you try to treat them like co-op players, you're going to be massively disappointed. If you use them like assets, mark targets, sync shots, move them into position, they then do become quite effective. I then realised I'd been playing the game completely wrong. I was storming bases like it was Call of Duty, expecting the AI to cover my sloppiness. That's not Wildlands' fault, that's mine. And at the end of the day, that's on me. So what changed? So now I've explained where I went wrong. Let me talk about what actually shifted my perspective. Because it wasn't just a matter of booting up the game again and then suddenly having, oh my god, I'm an idiot moment. It was a slow process, something that actually unfolded over several play sessions, mission by mission, moment by moment, and as I got further into the game, more of it became clear to me. This time, I let the game set the pace. First and foremost, I stopped trying to bend the game to my rhythm. Wildlands isn't really a roller coaster ride, to me it's a hike. When I stopped sprinting and started walking, I started to notice things around me. The sunrises are incredible. The sounds of the wildlife and the ambience really hit home a feeling of the setting and immersion that I missed in the first video. The way that a village feels weirdly tense after a firefight and the aftermath is almost a collective sigh of relief. The radio stations reflecting random local politics and NPCs whispering about Santa Blanca operations. The world you see in the background isn't just a wallpaper, it's almost alive. Yes, it's not a dynamic world, but yes, it feels lived in. And the missions, when I approach with patience and creativity, they're not actually boring. Even repetitive, you can change up strategy multiple times in different approaches in different areas. You can try out all sorts. I started building different routines, and one of my routines was, first off, scouting with the drone, mark the targets and observe the patterns, and then choose my point of entry. Occasionally, only on a couple of occasions, I would take out an entire base without even actually entering the location first. Sometimes I'd completely mess it up and I'd have to improvise, storming the place instead, like Call of Duty. Both were rewarding and both did feel satisfying. As I said, the more missions I played, the more I actually enjoyed the game for what it was. And yes, sometimes what unfolded was planned, but sometimes some of it wasn't. None of it was scripted, and it all kind of felt real to me. When I say I was wrong about Wildlands, I'm not just performing for the camera or making another video. I actually mean it. I don't really like admitting I'm wrong. I will openly discuss and debate any topic that anybody wants to have, and I consider myself as quite an open-minded person. For me to say I'm wrong here means I really mean it. Revisiting this game didn't just shift how I see it, it also gave me a lot of dopamine to open my eyes to what the game was actually about. At the end of the day, there's something powerful about returning to a game after time has passed. It's like I'm revisiting an old book. You read it with the hindsight of your growth, distance from the game, and understanding you didn't have the first time. That's what Wildlands became for me. It wasn't just a game that I misjudged. It was almost a reminder of how easily we can all fall into the trap of expectations. When I first played it, back on release, it was a great one for me, but revisiting it last year, I looked at the game with modern expectations and this was completely wrong. Playing it now, with reset expectations and an open view rather than a fixed sense of judgment, I actually really enjoyed playing the game and the pacing felt totally different. Back when I made that original video, I was kind of burnt out. I was jumping between different titles, I was swapping from fast-paced shooters like Call of Duty to dense RPGs like Cyberpunk. I was constantly looking for immediate engagement, tight, rush combat, instant dopamine. But when Wildlands brought me back to its methodical, kind of slower pace, I mistook it for slowness. When it offered tools instead of direction, to me I saw confusion. And when it presented systems that relied on patience and planning, I misread them as shallow and not engaging. But here's what's changed. I gave it time and let the game breathe. And in return, Wildlands started showing me everything that I had missed. Quietly, slowly, but with clarity. And when I came back to Wildlands, I didn't just boot it up expecting a revelation. I'd previously had discussions in the comments with friends around me, my Discord homies, and I thought, you know what, let's just see what it's like now. But no plans, no content ideas, no camera, just me and the game, and record it just in case anything funny happens. And lo and behold, that's when it clicked. Playing Wildlands with zero pressure to perform or critique gave me space to actually feel the game. And that's a word that I come back to in a lot of these reviews, feeling. I started feeling the silence of the Bolivian wilderness, and the way that the jungle kind of envelopes you. Distant noise of random car cell radios and echoes of suppressed rifle through the trees. I started noticing how missions weren't just copy-paste, to be honest, they actually felt like different engagements when you treated them correctly. I started treating the objectives a bit less like chores, and more like creative problems, solving a tactical puzzle. And that experience stopped being transactional and started to actually become fun again. It was my operation, my mission, every time. And to me, that's a level of immersion that I completely missed in my first video, and I'm not really feeling that in many games these days. For me, Wildlands is a slow burn, and that's okay. I was wrong about Wildlands, not just because I misunderstood the mechanics, but because I completely approached it with the wrong mindset. The game doesn't want to grab you by the collar and just throw you into a tightly scripted cinematic thing. It invites you to take time to observe what's around you. It rewards you for slowing down, not speeding through. At first, especially for people like myself, it can be quite jarring. We've been trained by so many modern games to chase different icons, speedrun objectives, climb random skill trees in the most optimal XP way. I kept thinking to myself, why didn't I see this before? And the answer honestly is, I wasn't ready to see it. I was too caught up in what I thought the game should be, again, instead of appreciating it for what it actually was. And in all honesty, it's quite a humbling lesson as a content creator, but also as a gamer. Sometimes the fault isn't in the game. Sometimes that game that you think was terrible It wasn't their reason, it was your reason. It's because of you. And at the end of the day, that is really humbling to realize sometimes, and it also allows you to open games nowadays with a fresh perspective. But you have to have this thought before you play it. You have to set your expectations correctly. And now I'm going to move on to the biggest thing that Wildlands taught me. Boiling it all down, the greatest thing that taught me was patience. Not just as a player, but also as a reviewer, a fan of the Tom Clancy franchises, and a voice I feel in the community. It was humbling for me to speak with people and hear the contradictions I personally made. It was almost a new experience for me. Revisiting a video game with a completely open mind and really needing to understand this and incorporate it into my content. Games are more than just frame rates and features, they're expressions of art. If we're not willing to meet them halfway, if we demand that the games always bend to our preferences, we're going to miss the deeper magic that developers work so hard on. Let's be honest, Wildlands isn't perfect, but it's honest, it knows what it wants to be. And if you actually let it, it does reveal itself slowly, meaningfully, and with surprising effect. It allows you to embrace the concept that the developers are going for. I'm really glad I revisited Wildlands because it did remind me that first impressions can be flawed. It also reminded me of why I love games in the first place. Not just because they entertain me, but they also challenge your expectations. They make you rethink on what just happened and why did it happen. What was the purpose of that mission? What was it that made it fun? Each person's idea of fun is different. But for me, what made this fun was revisiting something as if I'd never played it before. And it also allowed me to revisit the feelings that go with that. And honestly, it's more than I expected from a military shooter that I just brushed off as just another Ubisoft open world map filler. I was wrong. I was really, really wrong. And I'm so glad I gave it the chance to show me why. And thank you to everyone who kind of pointed out and asked me to revisit the game. You've really managed to open me, not just as a game player like I said, but also as a content creator. So, now that I've re-experienced Wildlands with a fresh set of eyes, I want to offer some real, grounded advice for anyone thinking about jumping in 2025. Whether for the first time, or after a long break of playing. Because this isn't the kind of game you can just speed through, it's something you actually have to immerse yourself into. Number 1, do not rush it. This might be the most important point I have mentioned today. Slow down. Let the game breathe. Wildlands isn't trying to entertain you every second, it's trying to engage you and immerse you. And if you approach it like a checklist game, just going from one icon to the next, mission after mission, you will burn out and you will miss the magic like me. My advice is plan your missions, scope out the location before attacking, try multiple approaches, decide on which one works for you, make mistakes and learn. That's where the fun is. When you eventually pull that plan off, that's where the fun is. Number 2, experiment with your loadout. At the end of the day, it is a military shooter and your weapons do matter. The attachments matter, but so does how you use them. Don't just stick with one loadout because it feels familiar. Try using your drones more aggressively. Experiment with suppressed snipers and loud assault rifles. Find what feels good for you. And reminder, don't ignore the Rebel support features. It can be game changing if you use it correctly. Number 3, I'm moving on to solo versus co-op. Both are really valid ways to play, but they both feel completely different. So you have to adjust your expectations like myself. I have played it solo, I have played it co-op, and to me, I do prefer solo, but some otherwise. Solo lets you plan at your own pace. You take your time, you take your methods. It's almost peaceful to start planning that mission. However, when you move into co-op, that's where the unpredictable chaos and the true tactical coordination, shall we say, shines. Try both. See which fits your mood. Completely different vibes, depends what you're going for. Number 4, play with headphones. This sounds small, but trust me, play with headphones. The ambient sound design is actually phenomenal when you play with headphones and not just monitor speakers. You'll hear the wildlife and the footsteps and the distant gunfire a lot clearer, and the subtle environmental storytelling adds loads to your immersion. The subtlety is actually really nice because it's not in your face, but when you actually wear your headphones, it makes the game. And lastly, do not judge it too early. Give it time. If you're not sold after the first 2 hours, keep going. Wildlands is a game that gets better the more you invest in it. And once the systems click and you stop trying to control everything, it becomes one of the most satisfying experiences I've played. Am I still biased? Sure. I still wish AI was smarter, I still wish the commands were better, but none of those are now deal breakers to me anymore. Today I look at Wildlands and say, it's actually a gem. A game that can frustrate you, but it can also inspire immersion and enjoyment because of the frustration. The dopamine you get when you finally complete a mission using a method that you designed is insane. And I was wrong. Really wrong. Give Wildlands the time it needs. As you play the game, explore it, experiment, and let the world surprise you. Now drop us a like and subscribe, especially if you like these videos and if you're a fan of the Ghost Recon series. Make sure you ring that notification bell as well so you can stay up to date with all the videos we've got coming, and trust me, we've got some bangers.